So, you might recognize this ship. This is the Buccaneer. This is the pirate fighter. Or, technically pirates can use any fighter in the game. But if you were watching Pillar Talk and Tony Zurovec explain about the law system and, the fact that nowadays, you're going to get punished for whatever criminal activity you commit in the Star Citizen universe, or probably more specifically are seen committing in the Star Citizen universe. The police are going to be coming after you. There's going to be a lot of danger out there. Are fighters for pirates even still relevant anymore? When you look at Star Citizen and the current state of the game, including these new-ish travel restrictions that we have on fighters, under the old system, with the old fuel values, and I'm talking a few patches back now, it still took a lot of time to traverse the distance, say, between Hurston and Crusader, but a fighter could do it in a single hop. And you still had fuel to spare. But we're now coming into an era in the game where you're probably going to end up being pursued by law enforcement trying to interdict you, chase you down, that sort of thing. And with a fighter having to travel from, say, Crusader to Hurston, you automatically have to deal with the fact that you're going to have to get fuel before you can come back. You're going to have to go and stop somewhere and get fuel. Now, if you've got crime stat rating, your options are very limited. Well, I think, in fact, right now, you have no options. You're screwed. And that's kind of a problem. And it's one of these things with the new fuel restrictions. I mean, not really new fuel restrictions because it's varied over time, but there was a time when you could make that trip and make the trip back. And I feel like if we're going to deal with the overheat issue, fine, but then we should kind of revert on the fuel. And we should let fighters make multiple trips, because if you don't have that basic mobility, if you don't have that ability to get around the universe and go where you want to go and do what you want to do when you want to do it, especially as a pirate, I think you're really asking for trouble. It kind of puts a damper on the idea of flying a fighter in the first place. And all of a sudden things like the Cutlass and upwards become far more attractive as a pirate fighter, because if this is the way we're going forward, I mean, fighters just seem to come in with too many restrictions. There's too many, I think, drawbacks to owning a fighter right now, and no real upsides. Let's say you take one little step up, and you move to the Cutlass. What do you automatically get? You get the ability to bring your friends with you. You get a place to store cargo, weapons. You get a place to log out. You get far more range. You get more durability. And yeah, you know what? It costs you a little bit of maneuverability and speed, but is it really all that much? I mean, you get so much more access to the content of the game through a ship like the Cutlass than you do from a ship like the Buccaneer. Now, of course, the Buccaneer is supposed to be the nimble fighter, but it can't really get anywhere anymore. At least anywhere of consequence. If you need help at, say, on such a mission that's going to Crusader or going to ArcCorp or wherever, you can't bring a Buccaneer with you because a Buccaneer can't make the jump. It's got to stop and recharge and then go again. And then once you get there, it's like, oh, I got to stop. I need fuel. I need this. I need that. In a way, with the current restrictions, it's almost like, what's the point of bringing a fighter at all? It doesn't come with any of the facilities, and it only seems to come with drawbacks, And in a weird way, there were downsides to the Buccaneer, obviously, and we've talked about that at length, but it almost seems that with the new fuel and travel restrictions, it's kind of like, what's the point? I mean, if you're out there and you're committing pirate acts in the universe, and all of a sudden you have to get away from the police. With a Buccaneer, your options are far more limited, whereas a ship like the Cutlass or even bigger, like potentially the Corsair or the Star Runner or other ships that are larger, you have more options. You have more basic durability. It seems almost like, with these restrictions, it's almost like, fighters just largely don't belong in the Star Citizen universe. I mean, to date this video, for anyone who's watching this in the future, we're in the grips of the Origin sale right now. The Origin rework of the 300 has just come out, and I perused all the different models of the 300. I looked at them, but there was nothing in it that interested me, and it wasn't because the bed wasn't big enough, or it didn't have the right wood accents or carbon fiber trim. It was because, like, what am I going to do with it? What is it good for? Nothing. It can't go anywhere. It can't really haul anything of substance. What's the point? I mean, literally, what's the point? Like, with any ship like that could even haul a little bit of cargo, it's like, why not spend a few extra bucks and just get a Cutlass? It's so much better, and it's a ship that's actually designed to work in the game. It's not, these other ships seem to be based on silly little fantasies rather than the practical needs you're going to have in the Star Citizen universe. Where do you keep your weapons? Where do you keep your armor? Well, Cutlass has got a space for that. The other ships kind of don't. I think that what CIG was going for was the idea of kind of creating, sort of like sub-communities around certain planets and their moons, like, this gang's going to take over Daymar, and this gang's going to take over operations around Yela, and everyone's going to know about them, and it's going to become like a little mini community around Crusader and whatnot. But I think what's really going to happen is people are just going to default to bigger ships. I mean, I've already kind of made the case for the Cutlass, and I mean, there's a lot of people out there who own this ship and who are seeing it in a whole new light with these new restrictions on travel. And there are bigger ships out there, and a lot of people are getting them, and they're just like, man, 'cause I just want to be able to travel around the universe, and I don't want to be stuck in one planetary system. I mean, the travel time restrictions, I could totally understand. I get it. A bigger ship's going to have a bigger quantum drive, so maybe it can go faster through quantum. Totally get it. But when you add in the overheats and the fuel restrictions, it almost comes to a point where, what's the point of even having escort fighters? I mean, you have to spend so much money on a big ship just to carry them. I mean, and some like crazy amounts of money just to make a fighter valid for that application. Otherwise, it's just like you can't really use it. I mean, right now we're talking about the Defender just a couple of days ago. The Defender, which is supposed to protect the Banu Merchantman. Well, how does it do that? Does it tell the Banu Merchantman, it's like, don't worry, I'm going to be there to cover you in about half an hour, once I make all these jumps? It really just kind of doesn't make sense. You could see it being maybe like a minute behind or something like that, but we've kind of gotten to a point where it's become kind of crazy and kind of silly that a lot of these smaller ships, as flashy as they look and as interesting as they can make the designs, they just don't seem like they're really going to be functional in the Star Citizen universe. They're going to be something that you try to get out of as quickly as possible. And really, where I think the bread and the butter of ships should be is in that Cutlass Freelancer range. But there are only two options right there. Whereas we're flooding the market with all these ships that really aren't good for anything, given the way that you're building out the universe, or the way that they're building out the universe. Often I find myself, when CIG releases new information, certainly Pillar Talk was one of the things that kind of drove this discussion in the first place, because I was looking at it, I was going, geez, with all these new laws and legal restrictions and whatnot. As a criminal, you're really going to want to have mobility. You're going to really want to be able to get around the universe and do what you need to do where you need to do it. And you're going to have to have options. And when I look at fighters, I just see restrictions. I just see problems. I think the only good fighter in terms of practical usability in Star Citizen right now would probably be the Vanguard. I mean, ships like the Vanguard, the Cutlass, the Freelancer, I think that's kind of like entry level really Star Citizen now. And the ships beneath that are pointless. Like, what's the point? I mean, you play a space game to explore space, not the immediate environment around a planet. And I think that, with the way they've kind of implemented travel in the game now, that it really has just killed fighters. Like, it's just made them pointless, because in the end you're always going to go like, oh yeah, I guess I could take that out, but I don't know what's out there in the mission log. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. So you know what? It's just going to be easier to just take out a Cutlass, to take out a Vanguard, to take out a Freelancer, Miss, or whatever, and just go do my shit in that ship. Because with a fighter, you're probably going to find yourself at a point where it's just like, oh man, I can't do this, or oh, I don't have the cargo space for that. I have so few options, and there are better ships that are literally just a hop, skip, and a jump away in terms of price that open up your world so much more. That, I mean, yeah, they'll be more nimble, they'll be faster, but in general, as all-around vehicles for Star Citizen gameplay, they're absolutely horrible right now. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.